and welcome to Nesting Story. This is gonna be one take. Have I mentioned how hard it is to create content without school for the kids? It's just life, but I'm rolling with it. And you know what? Stress-free environment, kind of treating it like summer. I find that's the best approach. But today's video, I wanted to take a minute and just kind of deconstruct what this past week has meant for me. And honestly, and what I'm referring to is I did the muted and listening on my Instagram and on all my platforms. And before, I almost like saw other people doing it and then did it right away. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, as the protests started about George Floyd, a bunch of people in the content creator community, actually someone started the movement, instead of just posting the black square, that you do muted and listening, and the people who have like a larger platform could share that, pass the mic, and really listen. And so I almost did it just like a snap decision, and then I was like, hold on a second, what is this all about? I called a few friends, we had long conversations, and I had to think about like, what would this mean to me? Because I didn't just want to mute myself and disappear. So I made the conscious decision to mute my own personal original content, start amplifying other voices, and learn and absorb. And so I did that. And I'm telling you, I'm like a different person now. And I have always been a very, I'm like honest. I'm almost like so honest, like almost too honest sometimes, but not in like a mean way, just in more of a, I don't want to use the word naive, but anyways, you know me, you know that either I do one of two things. Either I don't share something that's personal and I don't need to share everything on this platform, or I'm like, I just am so honest, but I'm never someone who just kind of like, just kind of spits out jargon or untruths. So anyways, up until this past week, so I live in Canada. So I want to say first, there's racism everywhere. There's definitely racism in Canada, but it's almost like more like quiet undertones of it and polite racism and like everything. There is systemic racism in Canada. It's different. So I've had a twitchy eye all week. I have not been sleeping well, and I think my brain is a bit in like a fight or flight mode. So I know that's from sleep deprivation. It's me like one take, thoughts all over the place. So where I live, it's not impacted the same way, but I know, and I shared on my Insta stories, and I was very vocal on my Instagram. I kind of focused on that platform this week because truthfully, as a mom of four and with no school and stuff, sometimes I just need to zero in on one area because I can't do it all. So don't think I can do it all. I cannot do it all. So what was I saying before? Up until this, so I shared on my Insta stories my demographics, and I do know that the majority of my community are women who live in the US. So I knew that it was important to share a lot of information on my platform because there's a lot of people who I think are game changers who would be receiving it. Another thing I decided was that I wasn't just going to like share. Every piece of content I was going to read through, watch all the way through, click through to the original source, kind of find out where that's coming from, and then think about who I'm sending it to. So that was really intentional and made me learn a lot. And then I had some really challenging conversations with my kids, and I'm so glad I did. And some challenging conversations in the DMs. Overall, as I shared throughout the week what I learned and what I was doing through the DMs, I could see that it was making an impact, because a whole bunch of you went and had challenging conversations too, and really understood the difference between not being racist and being anti-racist. So that was one of the big things. And I'm not going to sit here and educate you on everything, because I think that we've had a whole week of that, and there's better people. There's so much information out there right now that unless your head's been in the sand, you've hopefully kind of learned these things too. I more want to share how it's personally impacted me. So one of the first things is I learned the difference between not racist and anti-racist. So up until this point, I was not racist, but not anti-racist. And I see the difference in the fact that I've been in situations where someone's made some joke where I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's so wrong, but don't speak up. Like, I will now speak up, as uncomfortable as that will make me, I will. I've had really real conversations with people in my life who I've already seen just like the wheels turning, like. And then the biggest thing was having conversations with my kids. So Holden and Bo are older. They're actually have a big interest in Black history, and we had some really good conversations, thought-provoking. But I had never really talked about racism with my twins, who are going to be 6 soon. And I thought, I don't know, I just kind of thought, see, here's the thing. We live in a community where there's a large Muslim community where we live. And so we've always kind of focused our conversations about diversity on more of the Muslim community. And I think for some reason, I had blanketed that with everyone. I'm not trying to make an excuse. I've just really all week been like, where did I go wrong? What was my thinking? Or sometimes I would like not follow someone or not pay attention because I'm like, that doesn't really impact my life. So wrong. And so I had a conversation with the twins, and they said some things that just made my jaw drop, and it didn't come from me, but I realized the problem is I never spoke to them about racism, more specifically racism against the Black community. Straight clear with them, and they filled in the blanks with some nonsense. So we had some interesting and really like clear conversations, age appropriate, and then it's going to just be an ongoing thing, because I want my entire family to be anti-racist and really stand up for everybody. So that's something huge. I've really learned about white privilege this week. I think I kind of was like, yeah, I know. No. Like every single day I would watch things or talk to people. I had lots of deep conversations with friends. I've, reached out and connected on a deeper level with lots of my friends or acquaintances of friends, more specifically like, Black women who are business owners, and I tried to amplify them and just really understand, like, and kind of apologize, but I understand, educate myself. I didn't need them to educate me. It wasn't about that. It was about like, how can I support you? I'm thinking about you. And then I like really looked at my feed and everything and who I follow, and was just like, oh, not only have I been I've just been in such a bubble, and I've been missing out on all these incredible people and incredible stories and incredible businesses, and just like, I will never get it right. I'm probably saying a bunch of things here that you're like, but I made the decision that I would stop avoiding uncomfortable conversations and say something, do something. And I've all week moved out of my comfort zone, which was hard and sometimes painful, and a relief though. Like, it just felt like, okay, like I jumped off the edge of the cliff, because I 100% was one of those white people who are saying like, I was just so afraid of saying the wrong thing. And now I'd rather speak up and sometimes get it wrong and be corrected and then learn from that than do nothing, say nothing at all. This change, this moving out of my comfort zone, out of my bubble, and really, really, really being real with myself about my own values and everything has rippled into other parts of my life, and having other hard conversations, and like it's been a huge, real week of growth for me. Moving forward, I plan to continue to share these people and content as they come through. It's not going to be like every Monday I do this, because now when I go through my feed and go through who I follow and who's part of my community, it's diverse and I love it. And I'm excited and I'm sad. Like, I'm very, very sad about what is going on in the US. I'm very, very sad about what is going on in Canada. I am also spending time and going to spend more time learning about the Indigenous community. And then really even step back and look at how my platform can speak more about things like special needs. Like I've talked about Holden and his auditory processing disorder and that whole journey, but like I just could be more vocal about so much more. And I think sometimes I can use the excuse of being so busy with what's going on in my own life and staying in your lane or being in a bubble that I just don't do anything. And I should say, one thing I was really, really intentional too was staying in my lane in terms of like not focusing on what that creator was doing and that creator was doing and what they were sharing or when they were sharing or what. It was 100% my own journey and going with my gut and my feelings and how I was growing this week. So I wanted to share all that with you. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully when I go back and review this makes sense, because I feel like this week threw me through a loop, and that's not a bad thing. It was an uncomfortable thing sometimes. And oh, one more thing I want to say, and it was so funny because I'm sure you saw that post by Leslie Dwight. I shared it on my Instagram feed, and she said something about what if 2020 isn't the year that gets canceled. We were all joking like, oh, just cancel this year. It's been so insanely awful. What if it's the most important year of all, because it forced us to go through pain and be uncomfortable and wake up? And it's so funny because hours before that, I had felt the day before super anxious and stressed. This must have been like last Tuesday or Wednesday. Super stressed and anxious and feeling the heaviness. I'm such an empath, and I was just like, it's not about me, but it was feeling the weight of what was going on with so many people and my friends who have to have these insane conversations with their kids, their boys Holden's age, about how they'll be treated differently if a cop pulls over Holden and them. Like, it's just, my heart, like, it was so heavy for me because it just really, 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 I could feel the pain. And I was feeling like, man, I went out and I gardened at like 9:30 at night, got eaten by mosquitoes because I just was it's so like, when will not the world be good again? Because it obviously needs to change, but when will life feel better? Because it's just so awful. And the next day, I started to have these like amazing conversations with friends, and just this thing in me kind of hit me through these conversations. Like, this isn't awful. This is actually a turning point and a growth, like growing pains. And we're all growing and I'm growing. And I just felt this like optimism, this positivity. And then later that day, that came through that post, and I was just like, yes, that is exactly what I was feeling earlier. I'll leave it on that note. I I'm sure there's so much more I have not shared right now, because as much as I'm constantly, I'm always like, oh, I'm not going to film that yet because I want to be really in a clear headspace. That's not reality right now. I'm like literally jumping between a few tasks, and this video is out today and I wanted to share this. So I hope you did use the week. You didn't put your head in the sand. Just absorb some stuff. I'm not going to sit here and preach to you, but just, there's so much amazing education out there right now, and it's not too late. Like, just because the 1 week of muted and listening is over doesn't mean that you've missed your chance. Like, it is continuing. The protests are continuing. I would just start by reading and watching and reflecting and talking, and talk to your kids, ask them questions. Start that way. A lot of people said, how did you talk to your kids? Just started. With Holden and Bo was more about sharing about George Floyd and starting there. With me and Everly, it was about saying something. What do you think about that? Like, really kind of understand where your kid's head is, and they might shock you one way or the other. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments where your headspace is, what you learned, if you learned anything, or if you're motivated to kind of open yourself up and really look inward. And always, always lead by love. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.